Hey coders, welcome to another exciting tutorial on my channel. Today we are going on a beginner-friendly coding adventure where we will create a sleek website for an IT company using HTML, CSS and JavaScript. Of course, that doesn't mean that you can only create an IT company website using this tutorial. You can not only create website for any company you like, but also the skills that you learn will be useful for any kind of front-end development. And don't worry if you are new to coding, this is a beginner-friendly tutorial where I'll explain everything along the way. Throughout this tutorial, we will focus on making our website responsive, adding stylish CSS animation, and incorporating dynamic elements with JavaScript. By the end, you will have skills to build your own professional-looking websites. So grab your favorite beverage, fire up your coding editor, and let's dive into the world of web development together. Let's get started. In our project folder, I have created 3 files which are all empty and one folder called images. So this folder contains all the images that we will utilize in this project. And now if you notice, this index.html file is empty, so is script.js, and likewise style.css file is also empty. Let's start with index.html and generate the skeleton code. Okay, so let's change first title to Infinity Technology. Now let's link our style and CSS files as well. So for the style file, since the name is style.css, so we don't need to change over here. And for the JavaScript file, let's link it at the very end. So script.js. And since we will also be including some Font Awesome icons, so let's go and get the link from the Font Awesome website. Okay, so this is the Font Awesome website and I've already logged in. You also need to have created a kit because this is the link for the kit that you have to include in your HTML file to use the Font Awesome icons. So this is my free kit. Let's copy this and paste it over here. Okay, now we are all set to define the header section. So for that we are using the header element and giving it the class name header as well. Okay, so we have this header element with the class name header. Now we have to define the contents of that header element. Okay, and for the contents, and this is the header section, so we have to have one logo for the website. Then we have this menu bar at the right side. But if we go to this mobile app, then instead of this menu, we are seeing this drop down menu, so we need this icon as well. This icon won't be visible unless we are in the mobile version, but we still have to put it there. So basically we have 3 elements inside the header element: the logo, this menu bar, and then that Font Awesome icon, which is usually called a hamburger icon. So that means we need 3 children for this header section. The first one is going to be a div with the class name logo, and there we are going to have an image with its source from images, and then we have this logo one. Let's remove this alternate. Okay, the second element is going to be a nav element. Let's give class name as well. And this nav element contains 5 anchor elements. So a asterisk 5, which means times 5. So this will create 5 anchor elements. First one, let's give it name home, then about section, then services, projects, and content. Now for the time being, we are leaving these h references empty because currently we haven't defined any sections. Once we define those sections, we have to give each of those sections a particular ID. Then in order to link that particular section with these anchor elements, we have to write hash, and then we have to write the whatever section ID we assign to it. But since we haven't yet assigned anything, so let's keep them empty. And after the nav element, we need to define the hamburger icon over here. So let's put it inside a div with the class name hamburger. Now there we have to include the Font Awesome icon. For that we have to go to the Font Awesome website. Okay, we are going to search the icons for the hamburger. Okay, let's use this one. but we need to change the version from 6 to 5 because that's the version number associated with my kit, and I can only use the icons from that version. So we don't have that version in this we don't have that icon in this version, so let's click this one. Now since we are using HTML, so click it to copy and paste it over here. Let's go live and see what we have built so far. So first let's check the port number. This is the port number where this index.html file is live. So 127.0.0.1, which means localhost, and then we have to take the port number. Okay, so this is how it currently looks. Remember, our demo is running on the port 5501, and the project that we are currently building is running on the port 5500. Okay, so this is how the HTML displays it. Now we have to use CSS styles to give it a proper navigation bar look. So now let's go to style.css file, and before we move on to defining styles for the navigation bar, we have to define some basic global properties which will be applied to our whole project. And the first thing that we are going to define over here is the link to the font website that we are going to use in this project. So for that, let's search Google font picture. Okay, so this is the font that we are using. These are the styles. So let's click on this get font family, and then we have to click on this get embedded code. Okay, now once we reach here, we have to make sure the web is selected, and then we are going to use this add import. So this gives us add import link, and this is the way to use this bitter font. So first let's copy this and let's copy it. Okay, paste it over here. Let's remove this style tags because we are in the CSS file, so we can only use these tags inside the HTML code. Then let's copy this and paste this over here as well, but let's comment them out for the time being. So basically, whichever element we want to assign this font family, we will use this font family bitter sans serif, and if we have to change the font weight, then this is the one we will use, and if we have to change the style, then we will use this property. Next, we are going to define some variables for the theme colors. That is all the colors that we are going to frequently use throughout the website. And since these variables are going to be used throughout the website, that means we have to define it within the root section. So anything that we define in this root block is going to be accessible throughout the website. So primary color, this is the name that we are going to give to our variable, primary color. And this is a shade of black but with some tint from the blue color. Then secondary color, and this is also a shade of black but slightly more bluish tint in it. Next, we are going to define two colors for the text. Primary text, now secondary text. These are the two text colors. Now another variable, this is the outline color. Next, define some styles for all the HTML elements, which are asterisk, a block which is followed by asterisk. This means the styles that we are going to define over here are going to be applied to all the HTML elements. So first of all, we are going to remove margin and paddings. We do this because all HTML elements have by default some margins and paddings applied, and since we don't know which element has what margin and what padding, so it's a relatively common practice that at the beginning we strip off all the margins and paddings. Then if we like, we assign individual elements margins and paddings ourselves. Padding 0. Then for the box sizing, we define border box. And by assigning border box to box sizing, we are saying that whatever initial width we assign to any element and then we assign any padding to it, that padding should be subtracted from the total width and height. If we don't define this property, then what will happen is that whatever width and height we assign to our element, and on top of that, if we define the border, then that border area is added to the total width and height. This way, the total width and height of whole element will be larger than what we had ourselves defined. So if we don't want our element to exceed out of that size, then we have to set this property, box sizing to border box. Next property is caret color, and let's give it transparent. So by setting caret color to transparent, the effect will be that if we click on anywhere on the web page, then we will not be able to see this blinking caret. Now let's define some styles for the HTML, that is the whole document. And again, this is a relatively general practice that we give it font size to 62.5%. And what is the effect of defining this font size to be 62.5% is that usually most of the browsers have by default font size set to 16 pixels. Now with 16 pixels, it's not very easy to visualize in our mind if you want to increase the font size, such as what will be the value if you want to increase just 20% more, or what will be the value if you want to increase it just 12% more. So by setting font size to 65.5%, this usually reduces the font size from 16 pixels to 10 pixels. Now this way, if you just want to increase just 10%, then we will add just 1 pixel. If you want to double the size, it will be 20 pixels. If you want to half the size, it will be 5 pixels. If you want to increase just 20% more, so it will be 120%, that is 12 pixels. So this way, it's easy to visualize in our mind how many pixels do we want to increase our font size by. Same, we don't want to see any scroll bar in the horizontal direction. So overflow X is hidden. Then there are two more properties, scroll behavior, smooth, and this will have the effect. Let me show you in the demo project. So let's suppose if I click on this services, the scroll bar will smoothly scroll down. So let's click on projects, and you see the small scrolling effect. So this happens because of setting this scroll behavior to smooth. Then we have this scroll padding top property, this one. Let's not assign any value. Let's comment this out for the time being. Eventually we will use it, but let's put it there and comment it out for the time being, because currently it won't make any sense. Okay, then for the transition, so no matter what kind of animation or transition we have defined in our web page, so how should that transition take place? We are defining those properties over here. So it consists of 3 elements or 3 properties. The first one is what kind of transition we are applying over here. So right now we don't know what kind of transition is going to be used, therefore we are going to put all. That means no matter what kind of transition is applied, the property that we define over here will be applied to all of them. So therefore all, and then how much time it should take the transition to take place, so 1 second. And how should this transition take place? So let's put in ease. So that means, then let's define global text color, and it's going to be primary text color. Not primary, we need secondary, the shade of gray. Okay, we are done with the general styles. Now let's start working on the header element. So since we have given it a class header, we are using that class to define the styles. The first thing that we are going to define is background color, and give it the color primary color. Okay, so this is the effect. Now let's go back to demo, and if you notice, no matter how further we scroll down, the navigation bar is always visible. So we have to define that behavior, because if we don't define that behavior, if we scroll down, the navigation bar will scroll up and it will be invisible in the browser. So for that we have to assign it position fixed. Now position fixed is always with respect to the viewport window, and because we are defining it with respect to the viewport area, so even when we scroll down, because the position of the header is defined with respect to the viewport, so it has to be always visible in the viewport. So this is how we fix our navigation bar in the browser window. Now setting position fixed will not do much unless we define some other properties. That is, with respect to the top dimension of the viewport window, where should this be? So we are giving it value 0. That means with respect to the top area, it should start exactly where the viewport starts. And with respect to the left, again 0. That means it should also start exactly where viewport window begins with respect to the left dimension of the viewport area. Now since we want the header section to stretch out the whole window, so we can give it width 100%. Then we want to give it a fixed height. So height is going to be 12% of viewport area. So 12 VH, that means viewport height. Okay, so this is the total space it's going to occupy. Now, because the image occupies a lot more space than this height, so it seems like the image has gone out of that area. And since this navigation bar and the hamburger icons were defined after this image, so they have been pushed down as well. Now remember, the size has shrunk down because we have defined the font size for whole HTML element to be 62.5%. That is exactly 10 pixels. So that's why they have shrunk down. Now to place this navigation bar and this hamburger in a same row as this image, we have to set its display property. So display is flex, and by default all the children of the element for which we are setting display property to flex, they go all in the same row. So here it is. This is image. This is our navigation bar. And where did hamburger go? Well, it must be here somewhere. Let's change this color to some light color to make sure that our hamburger is still present there. So for the time being, let's comment this out and get a different background color. So let's set it to pink, a light color, and there it is. Okay, so it's still there. So as you can see, now they are all in the horizontal direction. The image is supposed to go over here because the size of the image is too big. That's why it has pushed down. But technically, it's over here. So image, then navigation links, and then our hamburger. So let's go back. Okay, now we have to justify content and put the space between them. Space between. So it will try to bring in as much space between all these three elements as possible. And with respect to the alignment, they are in the center. That is, with respect to the height of the header element, they will be exactly in the center. Okay, now you can see the element has been pushed up because half of it is visible and the rest of the half is above this viewport area. So the image is trying to also fit in within exactly in the center of the height of this header section. And if you notice over here, our navigation links, they are exactly in the center. Now our hamburger must have moved somewhere over here in the corner because we have set the justify content property to space between. So there is as much space between them as possible. And since we want this header section to be always visible, which we have made sure by setting the display property to flex, but to be double sure, we are also assigning it Z index to be the highest index in the highest index. So if we are going to assign this Z index to any other element in our project, we have to make sure it's less than 1000. This way, because the 1000 is going to be the highest value, so this is going to let header section always stay on top of other elements. So if there is any overlapping between different elements, because of the Z index being highest for the header section, the header will always be the topmost element and the other elements will be underneath it. Now let's go to the image. So since image is inside a div called logo, so we have to first of all give it certain height. Otherwise, our image will not fit inside that height. So since the total height of the header is 12 viewport area, so we are going to give that height to our logo div as well, which is 12 viewport. Okay, next, header, logo, and we have an image element within it. So now height, we are going to give it 100%. So this will take 100% of the parent. By setting height 100% to the image, it will take 100% of its parent. So the parent has 12% height, the image will also get 12% height. And because we are setting height, the width will automatically adjust so that the aspect ratio is maintained. Now as you can see, our image has also shrunk down because we have set the width of its parent container, the image parent container, that is the logo div, to be 12% height, and then we made sure the image itself takes same height as its enclosing container. If we don't define the height of the enclosing container, now over here, since the image doesn't know what is the height of its enclosing container, so therefore the image will take 100% of its own height. Let me show you the effect. Okay, as you can see, again the image got the original size because the first thing when you set the height is that, or if you don't set the height, in both the cases, what it will do, it will try to look for the height of the enclosing container. If there is no explicit height defined for the enclosing container, then the image will take its own 100% height. So in order to make sure the image always fits in the enclosing container's height, we have to give some explicit height to its enclosing container. Okay, now let's move on to defining styles for the navigation links. Okay, so since the navigation bar is inside the header and the class name that we have assigned to that navigation bar is nav, and let's target individual anchor elements. So color let's give it secondary text color. Then let's put margin between all of them, so top bottom 0. We don't need any top and bottom margins, therefore 0. Then for the left and right, 1.5 frame, that is 15 pixels. Okay, so now there is some space between all of these navigation links, but the font size is way too small. So let's give it font size 1.8 frames, so that means 18 pixels. Okay, text transform, capitalize, text decoration none. So this will remove the underlining effect from the anchor elements. Okay, I think I haven't used any font anywhere, so let's give it font family. Okay, now for the font family, okay, copy, paste it over here. Okay, that's better. Oh, I think I've used two different fonts in this project, Poppins and Bitter, so I think this is Poppins. Okay, now search Poppins. Import, copy it, paste. Now let's remove this. Then let's just copy this. We are not going to copy all of them because we can directly use font weight 100 and font style normal. Okay, so let's just copy this font family and let's go down. Now let's go down. This is the font family that we have to use. Okay, so this is how it looks. Okay, now the default font size for the whole HTML page is Poppins. Okay, now let's go back to the anchor tag. There, font size is 1.8. Let's make it 2 rems. Okay, that's better. And let's change the font weight. So let's make it 600 and see its effect. Okay, maybe a little less. Let's make it 500. Spelling. The next style that we have to define is that when we hover over them, the hovered anchor element changes its color. So let's copy this, paste, and attach hover pseudo class. We simply have to change the color to primary text. Okay, then next what we have to do is that we have to define a class which when attached to any anchor element, then that anchor element will be different color. For example, since we are in services, because we clicked on service, so the services is a different color, is a primary color, even when we are not hovering over it. Now let's click on project. Now the color of the project is primary color. So when we hover over rest of the elements, they change to primary color, but the link which has been selected, it remains primary color as long as its contents are displayed in the viewport area. So for that, we are going to define the class copy. When this anchor element has a class called active, then it has the same color. Okay, to see its effect, let's go to index.html and let's assign a class to the second anchor element. So class is active. So as you can see, because the class active is attached to the second anchor element, it's always primary color. Okay, let's remove this because we will attach and remove this class from these anchor elements using JavaScript. Now let's start working on defining styles for the hamburger icon. So header, and the class that we have given it is hamburger as well. Hamburger, so this is a div. Now let me show you something first. So if I set its display property to none, now because the hamburger is not there, and for the header section we had set display flex and justify content space between, therefore the nav elements have moved towards the rightmost area of the window. Earlier it was in the center because we had third element, which was hamburger. The moment we set its display property none, this nav bar will move to its right place. But since we have defined its style, so I'm going to comment this out for the time being so that we can see the effect of styling on our hamburger. If it's invisible, we won't be able to see anything. Okay, so let's give it height 3 rem, width is also 3 rem so that it turns into a square shape. Then line height 2.5, a little bit less than the height of the div. Border radius, we have to give it slightly round edges, so just 4 pixels, that means 0.4 rem. Then background color, secondary text align center, font size 1.8 rem, justify content center. Okay, let's change it to display flex because otherwise justify content center won't work. And now align item center as well. So this is how it looks. We are going to give some padding to this whole header so that there is some space between the elements in the navigation bar and the browser window. So let's go back to the header. Okay, now let's give it some padding. So top and bottom we don't need any padding. However, for the left and right, let's give it 2 rem. Okay, so now there is some space between the edges of the browser window and the items. Okay, so the color of the bars inside this menu icon is the primary color. So now we have to define that style. Copy, paste. Now since the hamburger, the font item element itself is this in I tag, so I, and now let's define the color. Primary text. Okay, now next we have to work on, let's go to demo first. So if you notice, currently the hero section, our home section, is visible in the viewport area, and therefore this home link is also highlighted. If we click on about section, now only the about section is highlighted, and the visible section is also the about us section. So that means whichever section we are on, that navigation link is highlighted. This also happens if we manually scroll up and down. So now we have to define this logic, but in order to define this logic, we have to give all of these anchors their href values. So that means we have to define these sections. So I'm going to enclose all the sections in the main element, and there the first section is going to be, let's call it home section, and also give it ID. Okay, currently this section is empty, so let's give it some contents. Let's give it 100. Now let's copy this section, then about, services, project, and contact. So 4 more. Paste 2, 3, and 4. Okay, this is home section. Then this is about, then services, project. Paste 1 more, and this one is going to be contact. Okay, first section is home with ID home, second one is home. Okay, now this is extra because I inserted another one section at the end because I thought I haven't inserted enough sections. home, about, services, project, contact. Okay, let's see how it looks in the browser. Let's give them values: home, then hash about, services, projects, and contact. I think we have kept project singular, so make it plural. Okay. Now the thing is this: they are all scattered. This whole text is scattered together. So what I'm going to do is that I am going to give a temporary style for the section. Give it with a very small width. Let's give it 5% because I want the scroll bar to appear. So each section just have 5% width. Let's give it background color as well. No, never mind. Okay, so now as you can see, because all the contents have to fit in just 5% width, because of that we have now got the scroll bar. Okay, let's give each of these sections a H1 to differentiate between them. So home section. Okay, then this is about section. Services. Okay, services, projects, and then contact. So there is about section, then we have services, projects, contact us. So only we can't see home section because it's actually behind this navigation bar, but it's there. So let's click on this about. Now as you can see, we scrolled down to about us section, but obviously this part is not visible because it's behind the navigation bar. We will fix that part later. Okay, now we are at services. Let's click on project, and this is projects. So that means we are able to scroll up or down to the appropriate section when we click on these links. Now we have to highlight the anchor link whose contents are being displayed in the window. So for that we have to define logic in the script file. Let's get reference to all the anchor elements. So nav links dot query selector all, and we are interested in anchor element, but not just any anchor element, the one which is inside the nav element. So the parent is nav with the class name nav. Okay, now we have to decide where are we going to define this logic. So we have two options over here. When we click on the anchor links, or when the scroll is moved up and down. But if you notice, when we click on the anchor links, even in that case, the scroll moves up and down. So that means we can define this logic with the onScroll event. And since we want to define this logic for whole window or for whole document, so we are going to use window.onScroll. So this is the event with which we want to attach this logic. So now to this we are going to give an arrow function. Now over here, first of all, we have to get reference to all these sections. So again, since we have a lot of sections, therefore we are using query selector all, and to that we are going to pass section. Now we are going to iterate over each of these sections. So for each, let's pass one section at a time to the arrow function. Now within the body of this arrow function, we have to define three variables. So now the name that we are going to give this variable is scroll distance top. Now in this variable we are going to store the value which is actually the distance from the top edge of the browser to where the scroll is currently present. So that's why scroll distance top. Let's make it round. Scroll distance from top. And to get that distance, we are going to use window dot scroll y. Now this scroll y will give us a distance from the top of the window to where the scroll bar is currently present. So that means this is a dynamic variable. Every time the scroll bar is moved up or down, the value in this variable will change. Next, we have another variable, section total height. Now to this variable, we are going to assign the total height of any particular section. Once that height is figured out, then that height remains unchanged as long as no changes are made to the section itself. For example, if we add more contents to the section, the height will increase. If we remove some contents, the height will decrease. But as long as the section remains unchanged, the value in this variable will also remain unchanged. And the way to get that value is section dot, we have a variable or property to each section which is called offset height. Okay, now the third variable that we are going to define, section distance from parent. So this variable will store the value, which is basically the distance between the parent, the top edge of the parent, and the top edge of the section. So let's go to index.html. Now if you notice, the sections are all defined within this main element. So that means for all of these sections, the main is its parent. So this new variable, section distance from parent, will store the distance from the parent, that is main, and this section home. So since this is the very first child, so the distance between these two will be 0. However, the distance between the main and this second section will be some value, let's say 60 pixels, and then the distance between the main and this third section will be, let's say, 120 pixels, and likewise. So that's the general idea. However, in order for this main to be its referenced parent, we have to set its position property to something other than default. The default value is static. So if the default value is static, that means we don't assign any position other than static to this main. The main will not be considered the parent. It will go further up to the body. Then in that case, this body will become its parent. However, we will assign position to this element. Therefore, eventually this main will be the parent with which the distance between the sections and the parents will be evaluated. So the value is offset top. So this scroll y is the property of window, and this offset height and offset top are the properties of a section. Now to put some cushion between the top edge of the browser or a section, we are going to subtract some pixels. So we are subtracting 100 pixels. The value 100 is not mandatory. You can make it 150, you can make it 90 pixels, it's up to you. Okay, so now we have got all the variables that are going to come in handy in order to define the logic. Now using these three variables, we have to figure out where the cursor currently is. Let's change the name of this variable from scroll distance top to scroll position. Okay, now we have to make sure this scroll position is between, so this scroll position has to be between the section distance from parent and section total height plus section distance from parent. So this is the general idea. So the scroll position, so this variable should have a value greater than or equal to this variable and less than or equal to these two variables added together, because this value is the starting point of the section and this value is the total height plus the distance from the top edge of the window. So the scroll position has to be between these two values. So the logic is, if scroll position has to be greater than or equal to section distance from parent and scroll position is less than or equal to copy paste. In that case, now in order to define the logic over here, we need to somehow get a reference to this section. So we are going to define one more variable over here. So let id equals section dot get attribute, and the attribute we are interested in is id. Okay, So now we have the ID of each section stored in this ID variable. Now over here we have to target the anchor element whose href value contains this ID. So to do that, we are going to document the query selector. Not all, we are looking for a specific one, so just query selector. Then we are interested in header because that's where all the anchor elements are defined. So in header we have another element called nav, and there we have anchor element, so anchor. Then we are interested in accessing its href value, so square bracket href equals, now since this ID value is a dynamic one, so plus ID, and now we need the closing square bracket, so concatenate closing square bracket. Now once we get reference to that particular href, then we are chaining in another method which is called class list, and this class list has a method called add. To using this, we are going to add a class called active. Okay, so this is the general idea. A very important piece of information is still missing, but let's go to the browser for the time being and see how is it working so far. So refresh. Now let's click. Nothing. Oh, okay. So the problem is I have used over here the assignment operator, whereas I have to use a wildcard character, so asterisk equals. So this means select an anchor element whose href value can be anything as long as within that value there is this ID. So whatever is the value of this ID, so that value should also be present. It doesn't matter whether it's in the middle of that value, at the beginning of that value, or at the end of that value, or even if that's the only value that is equal to, that is the value of href. So no matter where that value is, as long as within the whole value of this href there is this ID value present somewhere, then select that anchor element. Okay, hopefully now it will work. Okay, so currently it has been selected project because we are on projects. Now let's click on home. So this home has been selected, but if you notice, about and services also got selected. That's because we were on the project section, but when we clicked on home, the scroll bar kept going up, and first it encountered services, so it attached active class to this anchor element as well, anchor link as well. Then as we moved up, then we encountered about, and then active class got attached to this anchor element as well, and then we moved up to home, and an active element got attached to this as well. Now we want slight modifications to this, such that the active class is only attached to that element whose contents are currently visible. The moment we move away from that section, this active class should also get removed so that it comes back to its original font color. So now we have to define that logic. So for that, we are going at the very top, and within the body of this arrow function associated with the sections. So the first thing that we have to do is that iterate over all the links and remove any active class attached to them. Then we will execute this logic and attach active class with only that anchor element who's currently visible in the browser. So over here, remove active class from all anchor elements. So this is the logic we are defining. And second is, in the following logic is iterate over all sections and attach active class with anchor element whose contents are displayed in the browser currently. Okay, so let's define this first logic. So now we have to remove active class from all the anchor elements. So what we are going to do is that we are going to iterate over these nav links, because this nav link contains all the anchor elements. So nav links dot for each, and we have to pass one link at a time. Link dot class list dot remove active class. Okay, let's click on home. Okay, I am sorry, this logic is supposed supposed to be defined even outside this block. So we have to define it within the arrow function belonging to this on scroll function. So this is where it's supposed to go, because the moment the scroll is moved, at that instance we want to remove active class from all the anchor elements, and then we want to iterate over all the sections, and over here we will attach active class to only that section whose href contains this ID. Refresh. Now home. Now let's scroll down. Now the home got deselected and about is highlighted. Let's go down. Now section is highlighted only. Project, about. Oh. The other problem is, let's suppose if we click on services. Now if we refresh the page, the services get deselected. That's because every time we refresh the page, the index.html page gets reloaded again. And when it gets reloaded, the scroll hasn't been moved. Therefore, the window.onScroll event has never occurred. And as a result, we don't see any of these anchor links highlighted. Now, let's hit enter. Now, if you notice, this services gets highlighted. Hit enter one more time. Again, it's gone. So, the behavior is unpredictable. It's again highlighted, 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 and it's gone again. So this behavior is unpredictable. This is something we have to work on. Then another thing that we have to work on is we have to make this navigation bar responsive. So that's plenty of work to do, which we will cover in our upcoming video. In the meantime, if you like this video, don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, and share. Happy coding. Welcome to part 2 of responsive website development. Today we are going to pick where we left off in the previous video, which was making this navigation bar responsive, and the other thing was resolving the issues that we are encountering with refreshing the page. For example, currently we are on the home section as per the URL, but as you can see, the home section is not highlighted. This is because we haven't yet moved our scroll bar. The respective navigation item gets highlighted once the scroll bar moves a little bit, but since it hasn't moved, so none of the navigation links are currently highlighted. So we have to fix this problem first, then we will move on to making it responsive. So let's work on that. So the way we are going to tackle this is we are going to access the path name, that is the part which comes after the domain name. So this part is the domain name. Currently it's just an IP address, but in real world scenarios it's going to be some domain name such as www.infinity.com. So this part will be that part. So anything that comes after that is called path name. So we are going to somehow access this path name through JavaScript, and based on that we will highlight the respective navigation item. Okay, so this is the current state of our JavaScript that we left off in the previous tutorial. Now over here we are going to attach an event listener with the Windows load event. So as soon as this web page is loaded into the browser, this event gets triggered. So we are going to attach this logic with that event. So window.onLoad. Let's define arrow function. Now before we write any logic, let's first of all try to figure out if we are able to access that particular part. So console log. So whenever the web page is loaded in the browser, this event gets triggered, and as a result we will get a console log message. And within this message we want to print window.location.hash. So as you can see over here, it says this location.hash returns the location object's URL's fragment. So this will basically print anything from this URL which starts with hash. So because this is whole URL and it will look for hash, so anything that comes after hash, it will print that. So let's see if that is the case. Refresh, and as you can see in the console log we saw this hash home. So let's click on services. Now let's refresh, and it says hash services. So that means we are able to extract this part through our JavaScript. Now that we are able to figure out which part is currently supposed to be visible in the browser window, we can manually make the scroll bar move to that part and make that section visible, as well as highlight that particular navigation link as well. So to do that, let's comment this out. Now since we have multiple sections for which we have to define the logic, so we are going to use switch statement. And to this switch statement, we are going to pass in this value. Copy, paste. Now first one is case hash home. But if you notice, we are not only in the home section when this hash home is attached to the URL, but also when there is no such thing followed by hash. like this. So even though there is no hash home attached to it, we are still on the home section. That means we have to make two cases when there is nothing. Now for both of these cases, the logic is, let's access from the header section or the header element. Within that header element, we have a child called nav with a class name nav. We can even make this one class name as well. It's up to us. Okay. Then there we have anchor element, and we are interested in a anchor element with the href equals to, again making the same state. So put asterisk to make it a wildcard character. Then it should contain home. So this should be the value. Then if that is the case, select that anchor element and then class list dot add active. And then the next thing that we have to do is that if, for example, we are on some other sections such as contact us or about us, so we want the scroll bar to move up and bring the home section in the viewport window. So for that we are going to do document.query selector and let's make it home. So the section with the class name home, select it and scroll into view. So we have chained in this scroll into view method. What this will do is that if this section with this class name home is not visible in the browser window, the scroll bar will move up or down depending on where that section is and where the scroll bar currently is, and it will bring this home section into the viewport window. So let's give it a try, even though we still have to define other cases, but it should work at least for the home section. So let's click on projects and refresh it. Now let's click on home, refresh, and it's highlighted even though the page got just loaded in the browser. Let's close it. Okay, so it's still highlighted even though the scroll bar hasn't moved ever since the page got reloaded. Okay, now let's click on home and still highlighted. Once more, home highlighted, home highlighted, home highlighted. So the unpredictable behavior that we saw at the end of our previous video, that unpredictable behavior has also been resolved. Just to recap that unpredictable behavior, well, actually what was happening was that when we hitting enter in the address bar, sometimes the relevant section was highlighted and sometimes it wasn't highlighted. Now after defining the logic, that issue has also been resolved. So we have to repeat the same logic for all of these sections as well. The only thing that we have to change in that logic is change the name, the class name for that section. So that means we have to define a case. Okay, so let's break it. Now let's define a case for about section. Then let's break it. Then a case for services. Then a case for projects. And then a case for contact. Now we have to define this same logic for each of these cases. The only thing that we have to change is this value. For the about section, we have to replace this home and this home with the about. For the services section, we have to replace this with the services. So that means there is going to be a lot of repetition. So instead what we are going to do is that we are going to define a function, and this way we will define this logic in this function only once, and for each of these cases we will call this function. So select nav, let's give it name, select nav, and as a parameter let's pass it section. Let's cut it from here, paste it over here. Now we have to pass this section over here, but if you pass like this it will turn into a string. However, we know this section is actually a variable, so in order to insert variables within the text, we have to replace these quotations with the tilde sign, the tilde symbol, which represents string interpolation. And using that string interpolation, we can insert variables within the text. Okay, same thing over here. Let's copy this and Control V, tilde, and we have to prepend this dot for the class name. So dot, then whatever is the value of this section variable. Now we have to call this function everywhere. So for both the home section and the empty case, select nav and pass in home. Copy, and for the about section, paste and change the value to about. For the services, okay, for the projects, again paste and projects. For the contact, okay, so currently we are on services. Let's refresh the page one more time, twice, again, and still the services is highlighted. Contact, refresh, and contact is highlighted. Okay, so that means everything is working just fine. Now let's check when there is no hash part and still the home is selected, because when there's nothing, it's empty, that is nothing after the hash or even the hash. In that case, select the home section as well. Okay, so we are done with that part. Now let's move on to making this navigation bar responsive. And to make it responsive, we have to define media queries in our style file. So we are going to define 3 media queries. The first one is going to tackle, let's first define 1200 pixels. So this is one media query, and this is going to tackle laptops and small devices. Okay, now copy paste it. The second one is going to be 768 pixels, and it's for tablets and iPads. Then the last one is going to be 480 pixels, and this is for mobile devices. Okay, I find this max width confusing, because even though it says max width over here, but what it actually means is that for screens which are less than or equal to 1200 pixels wide. So if any screen is greater than 1200 pixels in width, then this media query will not apply to it. We will move on to this main styles defined at the top. However, if it gets smaller than or equal to 1200 pixels, then whatever properties we define within these curly brackets, those media queries will be applied. So even though it says max width, the simple way to remember is less than. So if the width is less than or equal to 1200 pixels, the properties defined over will be applied. And if the width is less than or equal to 768 pixels, the properties that you defined over here will be applied. And if the width is less than or equal to 480 pixels, then the properties that we defined over here will be applied. So for the laptops and small devices, that is max width less than or equal to 1200, we are decreasing the font size for whole HTML document from 62.5% to 55%. So font size 55%. Now the font of whole document page has been decreased to 55%, and because for the rest of the elements we have described font, where is it? Like over here in the for the anchor elements in the header section, we have defined the font size as 2 rems. So that means this font automatically gets adjusted because the overall font size for the whole HTML page has been decreased from 62.5% to 55%. And because this rem unit is relative to the root element, that is the HTML element, so whatever is the font size of the root element, this font size is adjusted according to that font. Now since root element, that is the HTML element, its font size has been changed, therefore this font size is also changed accordingly. That means we don't have to adjust the font size of this anchor element when we are over here, because now 2 rems will be set according to this font size. So let's say this 55% means 8 pixels, so now 2 rems will be 16 pixels instead of 20 pixels. So this is the benefit of defining font size in rem units, because then we don't have to manually change the font size when we view our page on smaller devices. So let's verify if that is the case. Okay, this is 1201. Now let's decrease this, and the moment we move on to some other device, the width less than or equal to 1200, the font size of this navigation bar as well as the contents over here in these sections, their font size decreased automatically. And let's, okay, now again let's go just 1 pixel down. So let me just change it over here, and you see the dramatic difference. So that's the magic of defining the font size in rems. Now we have to go to the tablets and iPads. So again, HTML font size, let's make it 50%. And let's copy this. Okay, this is 50%. And over here, let's make it 46%. Okay, so this is 1200. Now let's go to 768, and this is the font size, 480, and you can see it's shrunk even further. Okay. Next, we have to make this hamburger icon disappear, and it should only be visible when we are on the iPads and tablets. So the name that we have given to the div which contains this hamburger icon is hamburger. Okay. Okay, so we are going to, let's copy first and set its display property to none. Let's copy this whole part, copy, and when we reach over here 780 pixels, so paste it, closing brackets, and reset from none to flex. Okay, so as you can see, the icon is invisible, so now it's visible, but let's go. So it only appears when we reach 780 pixels or even less than that. So 786 should have appeared. Save it one more time. 768. Okay. 700, and now we got it. Okay. So as soon as we got less than 768 pixels, the hamburger icon has reappeared. Okay. Now once this hamburger icon appears, we don't want to see these navigation bars over here. And when we click on this icon, we want to see this drop-down menu which contains all of these navigation links. So now we have to make these changes. And to make these changes, let's define header nav. We have to set its position to absolute, because now we want this header to be the immediate parent of this navigation. And if you remember, we have given this header height 12 viewport height. So we have to make sure this drop-down bar starts after this 12 viewport height. So for that, I have set the position to absolute for the navigation bar. That means this header is the immediate parent with respect to the positions. And now we are going to set its top to be 100%. So 100% of the parent. So that means it will start immediately where the header section ends. Now for the left, we want it to be pushed towards the right side. So let's make it 60%. And then width, let's give it 28 rem and see how it looks. But first change the background color to primary text color. And we want to give this box round edges. So border radius 5 pixels, slightly round edges. Okay, so this is how it currently looks. And because these are all anchor elements, that is by default they are inline elements. So we have to make their display to block as well. Copy, paste, and then anchor element. First of all, set its display to block. And now you can see they are on their respective lines. Give them some margin, 1 rem all around. Okay, I think we should push this drop down menu further towards the right because there is plenty of space over here. So what I'm going to do is that instead of setting the left, I'm going to set its right to 1%. From the right side, it's pushed 1%, and total width is 28 rems. Let's see its effect. Okay, that's better. Do you think we should remove this space as well? So let's simply set it to 0. Yeah, I think that's better. Now we have to change the colors of this text. So color is okay, that's better. Now the menu icon which is highlighted is invisible. So we have to change its color so that it's visible. So only when it's selected. So copy, paste, and when it has the active class attached to it, set its color to Let's change it to this outline color. Okay, so if this is visible. Okay, we should give it some padding all around so it's slightly bigger. So header, nav, let's give them padding. Padding all around, top and bottom, let's make it 1 rem, and all around 1 rem. Okay, that's better now. Now we have to make this disappear as well. Only when we click on it, this should get visible. So to do that, first of all, we have to set its display to none. So display is none. Then we have to add and remove active class dynamically through JavaScript. So to do that, we have to define the active class for this. Copy, paste, and display is block. Okay, so now let's go to JavaScript and attach and remove this class dynamically when we click on the hamburger icon. So we have to target this hamburger div. Document or query selector, and we have to access nav element in the header section. Now hamburger dot on click, sorry, this is not nav element, it's hamburger. So the hamburger, which is a child of header element, we are getting reference to that one, and then we are attaching a click event with it. So when the hamburger icon is clicked, we want the nav bar to appear or disappear. So have we got already a link to the nav bar? These are nav links. We don't have a link to the nav bar. Okay. Let's first of all get the nav bar reference. So query selector, header, then nav, and let's put it as a global variable, as a global constant. So paste it over here, and over here navbar dot classlist dot toggle active. So this toggle means if the active class is already attached to this navbar, remove it, and if it's not there, then attach it. So what will happen is that if this navbar is invisible and we click on the hamburger icon, the drop down menu will be visible, which contains the navbar, which is actually the navbar. And if it's visible and we click it one more time on the hamburger icon, this drop down menu will disappear. So let's go and test it out. Okay, click it and it's visible. Again click it and disappear. Click it. Okay, so this is also working. The next thing that we have to work on is to make sure the sections start right after the navigation bar. Currently the starting point of a section is behind this navigation bar right over here. So we have to now fix this problem. The reason this section starts behind the navigation bar rather than after this navigation bar is that we have set the display property of this header section to fixed, and when we set the display property of any element to fixed, it comes out of the normal flow of the web page and it's like in a separate universe. So in a separate universe, this header section is the first element of the browser, and because now the rest of the elements, which are sections in our case, so they are in the default flow of the web page, and in that default flow the section is actually the first element of this window because both of these elements are in separate dimensions. With respect to the position fix, header is the first child, so it starts from the top left position of the browser, and with respect to the normal flow, the sections, which are in fact inside the main element, so we are actually talking about the main element. So main element is the first child, so it also places itself with respect to the top left corner of the browser window. So now we have to make sure this main element always starts after this 12% viewport height. So for that, let's go to styles and let's go to after the header section. So let's define the main element and set its position. We can give it position relative as well, because relative means where the main section was supposed to come originally, from that position we are going to set top 12% viewport height left 0. Let's give it width 100%, and let's see its effect. Okay, now you can see this H1, that is the section title, is also visible. So by setting the position relative to the main and then bringing it down 12%, we are now able to see the starting point of the section. But there is one more problem. When we click on these elements, this header section, this scroll bar doesn't take into consideration that 12% height of this header section. So we have to make sure that even when we click on these navigation items, the scroll bar also makes sure that it puts 12% cushion between the section and this navigation bar. So to do that, let's go up. And remember, we had defined this property but commented out. So now we have to put 12% viewport height. And hopefully now the scroll bar will also respect that 12% height that is reserved for the header section. Okay, now I refreshed and the title is visible. Now let's click on about section. So scroll bar is also respecting that 12% height, and it's not scrolling further high, rather it's putting that 12% cushion such that our starting position of a section is also visible. Okay, now before we move on to defining these sections and styling, there is one more thing that we need to work on, which is, if you remember, this 12% viewport height is the height that we have given to our navigation bar, and we have already used 12% viewport height at many different places in the CSS, which is, as you have noticed, we have given 12% viewport height to this navigation bar, and then we had to make sure the main element, which contains all of these sections, we had to make sure it also comes after 12% viewport height, and then we had to give the cushion 12% viewport height to the scrolling bar position as well. That means a lot of different elements are being affected by what is the height of this navigation bar. We have already used it almost 3 times, that 12% viewport height, and we are definitely going to use it at multiple different places as we continue this project. So once a value is used multiple times, it's always a good idea to define a variable for that value as well. This way, later on, if we change the viewport height from 12% to, let's suppose, 13% or 10%, then we don't have to manually make changes to every place where we have used that 12% viewport height. We simply have to make the changes one place, and the rest of the elements will automatically get modified. So let's go to the top, okay, over here, and let's define nav height 12% viewport height. Okay, now let's copy this and look for 12% viewport height. Over here, let's use the var nav height. Search next one. Height is third one over here. Okay, so we have updated all the 12% viewport heights everywhere and replace it with this variable. Now let's go and see if it's working properly. I think it's working properly. Okay, let's click on services and we can see this contact. Okay, so I think it's working properly. Now we are ready to start working on the sections. But I think since we'll be working on a completely different element other than the header section, so we should start afresh in the new video. So this is the end of this video. I hope you liked it, and if you did, please don't forget to comment, like, subscribe and share. Thank you so much. Happy coding. Okay, so now we are ready to start working on our hero section. So before we start coding, if you notice, our hero section seems to be divided into 2 parts. The first one is this text over here, and the second one is this image. And then this text consists of 2 parts. The first one is actually the message, the slogan, and then we have these 2 buttons. So we are going to divide our hero section into 2 divs. One div is going to contain everything on our left side, and the second div is going to contain this image. So let's get started. Okay, so this is our hero section. We have given it the class name home, so let's keep it home. Now let's remove the contents of this hero section. Let's create a div with the class name description, then another div with the class name slogan, IT solutions that transform your business. Okay, now we need another div for the buttons. Button div, and we need two anchor tags. The text is learn more, and second one, contact us. So for the hrefs, what we are going to do is that we are going to link them to one of these sections. Okay, for the learn more, let's attach about, because when we click on this learn more button, we want to be redirected to this section, about us button, about us section. And for the contact us, we want to go to over here, copy and paste. Okay, now let's create another div for the hero image, and this image is coming from images, image 1. For the alternate text, let's put it hero image. Okay, that's it. Let's go and have a look in the browser. Okay, so this is how it currently looks. IT solutions, they transform your business, learn more, and contact us, and then we have this image. Okay, so let's go down and see if we have already defined any properties related to the main element or the section. Then based on that, we will move further. Okay, for the section, we have given it width 5%, which is a very minuscule width, and we gave it that width because we wanted the scroll bar to appear. Now, since we have already sorted out that scroll bar related issue, so I'm commenting this width out for the time being. So technically, no properties have been defined for the section. However, for the main, we have given it position relative, and then we have moved the main element bit down with respect to this navigation height. Then we are giving it 100% width, and left is 0. But for the main, we set it position relative so that we move it bit further down with respect to its original position, and we moved it below the navigation height by setting the top to this variable. We have also given it width 100%. Now let's go and define some properties for the section. First of all, let's give it some background color to see actually what we are doing. Are those changes taking effect to the section or not? So for the background color, let's give this temporary color, let's give it this one. Okay. In fact, let's not do that. Copy, because if we define background color for the section, so every section will have this color. So what we actually want is, we want to give this color to the home section, because currently we are working on the home section. Okay. In fact, let's give this primary color to the home section. Why were we assigning it temporary color? Okay. Okay, that's better. So this is our section. Now in order to define the rest of the properties, I'm temporarily commenting this image out so that we don't have any image on the screen. Because we haven't defined any properties for the image, as a result it's taking up its original size. The consequences of this will be, if we define any other properties for the other elements of this section, they will not take its effect. Or rather shall I say, they will take its effect, but because of this huge size of the image, the effects of those properties will not be visible. So I'm temporarily commenting this image out. We will define the properties for the rest of the elements, and then we will bring the image back in, and then we will adjust the image according to the height assigned to the home section. So index.html, and let's comment this out for the time being. Okay, as you can see, now the effect of removing that image is, now our home section is very minuscule, which is only this part is the home section. Now we want this home section, or any section for that matter, to occupy the whole area of this browser window, excluding the navigation bar. So to do that, what we are going to do is that, let's go back to the section and let's give it minimum height. We are going to use calculate function, and we are saying from the 100% viewport area, subtract whatever height we have assigned to the navigation bar and assign that remaining height to this section. So each section should have minimum of that much height, which is result of evaluating this function. So this way, even if there are very few elements on the section will still occupy the whole of the viewport area. Okay, so now as you can see, we still have just these 2 lines of text or the contents in the home section, but still occupying this whole viewport area. And the section about section starts here, and if you notice, this section is also occupying a lot of the area. This white space is empty area, which is occupied by this second section. And likewise, The section 2 is also occupying the space needed to cover this whole viewport area or the browser area. Now before we define any further properties, let's bring back the image. Now because the image is occupying a lot of space, now the home section will occupy more than the viewport area. Okay, so let's go down and our home section still continues. And this is where the home section ends. So this was the reason that I temporarily comment this image out, because otherwise we would not have realized that the minimum height occupied by each section is viewport height minus navigation area. Now because there are more contents because of the image size, as a result the height of this section is also increased. It's no longer consisting of minimum height. Okay, now we have to move this image to this side and these contents in the center. To do that, for the home section we are going to set the display to grid template columns. We are going to divide the width into 3 parts. 2 parts will be assigned to the text and the 1 part will be reserved for the message. So 2 FR and 1 FR. Okay, so this is the text and this is the image. Now because again no properties has been set for the image, so even though we have assigned 1 fraction to the div containing the image and 2 fractions to this text, but image is still occupying space with respect to its original dimension. As a result, it has overflown out of its parent div. Now in order for the image to fit into the area reserved for its parent container, we have to define certain properties for its parent container and then for the image itself. So the parent container is home and then we have a class. I think hero image is the class. Okay, now if you notice, the hero image is inside the home and the properties that we have defined for this hero section are with respect to the width of the browser or the viewport area. So therefore over here we have to work with the width as well. So let's make it inherit. So that means whatever space is going to be inherit with respect to this 1 FR, get that width. And now copy, paste. And for the image, and for the image itself, width is 100%, that is 100% of the parent. So this will get whatever is the width of this hero image div, and that div is calculated based on this 1 FR. Okay, now let's see the effect so far. Okay, so this is the image, but it seems to be, I think that's fine. But just to be extra certain, let's give it object fit. Let's make it cover. So it will cover the whole area reserved for this hero image div. Okay, that's better. Now let's make this image slightly muted. For that, let's give it opacity 0.4. Let's give it 0.4. Okay, that's better. Now we can start working on this part. Okay, so the classes are description, slogan, and btn div. Home, description. Now just to see the effect of defining properties for this description section, we are temporarily going to give it background color. Let's give it this one. Remember, this is a temporary color. This is missing. Okay. Let's give it height. Again, inherit from the parent. The height is inherit the parent height. Okay, so now we want the buttons to be pushed towards the bottom and this text almost in the center. So for that, what we are going to do is that, again, since our description consists of 2 children, first div is slogan and another div is button div, so we are again going to set the display to grid. But this time, we are setting grid template rows. For the first one, we want to reserve 60% of the space, and for the second one, we want 40%. Okay. Set margin auto for the description. Now, let's target its individual children. So, copy, paste, and then first child is slogan. The second child is button div. Let's make them hero div, hero buttons. So hero btn. Okay, now for the slogan, again, just to see how much space is being occupied by this slogan div, we are going to give it temporary background color. Okay, let's give it font size 6 rem, line height 9 rem, font family, we are going to give it this thing, copy, and where were we? Paste. Okay, now we are going to shrink the width of this area so that this text seems to occupy the center. So for the width, let's make it 60% and margin auto, text align center. Okay, that's great. We still have some more properties for this div to define, but let's put it on the back burner for the time being and let's move on to styling these links. So let's move on to the hero button and set it display to flex. Justify content space evenly. Align items center. Width 100%. Okay, this is L flex. Okay, but what are they doing over here? They are supposed to be beneath this slogan. So let's check. Let's give it background colors to see what's happening. Background color. Okay, I think there is something wrong, because if you notice, the word business, which is over here, has been kind of overwritten by this div. This should not have happened. Okay, the problem seems to lie over here. Over here for the description, that is this whole div, we have set the height to inherit, that is inherit from the parent. And because for the parent, which is home, and by set I mean we haven't explicitly set any height, but because this home is a type of section, and for the section we have defined minimum height, not the height but minimum height. So technically for the section we haven't defined any height, therefore it's going to the main element, and this one also doesn't have any explicit height defined. So therefore this description is not taking on the whole height of the remaining viewport window, excluding the navigation area. So to resolve this, so what we are going to do is that for this description, we are going to give it explicit height, which is from the 100% viewport area, subtract the navigation height and assign the rest to this description area. Okay, now it's working. Now we can remove these background colors, or let's keep them for a little while longer. And let's go back to the slogan, and instead of the background color, let's give it color primary text. Okay, let's change this, comment this color. Okay, that's better. Now let's remove this color as well. Now let's define the styles for these elements itself. So copy, paste, and anchor elements. Display flex, because we want the text to come exactly in the center when we give it the button appearance. So justify content center, align item center, width is 18 rem, height is 5 rem. So basically I want it to turn into a rectangle. Now to give it round edges, first of all let's give it border color. Okay, it's going to be primary text. Now border radius, border color, style is solid, 2 pixels should be the width, and for the radius let's give it 4 rem and see its effect. Okay, let's Okay, that's better. Now we have to increase the font size. Font size is 2.2 rem. Text decoration is none. We want to remove this underline. Okay. Okay, so this is how it looks. Now let's change the color of this text. So color is this outline color. Now we have to transform this text to be capitalized. Text transform, capitalize. Okay, good. Now we have to define the hover effect for this one. So copy, paste, and hover effect. Okay, but first we have to define the background color for normal anchor element. So background color is transparent, and over here change the background color to primary text and the color to secondary color. Give it some box shadow for the glowing effect. So the horizontal offset 5 pixels in the right direction and 5 pixels vertical offset but in the top direction, so minus 5x. 15 pixels for the blur effect, and for the color primary text. Next we have to work on defining this animation. When the page is loaded, we see this animation, this one. Okay, to define this animation, we have to define a part of it in the CSS and another part in the JavaScript. So first work on the CSS part. So when the page is loaded, if you notice, this text is coming from the right side into the center and the buttons are moving in from the left side into the center. So where is the slogan? Okay, this one. For that, what we are going to do is that we are going to define transform property, and for the transform we are translating in the y-axis, or not y, x-axis. And since we want it to push it towards the left side, so 12%. So this will push this text 12% to the left from its original position. And then set its opacity to 0. So in the beginning they are invisible. Then let's define a class called show to it. Then opacity is 1, that is make it visible, and copy, paste, and bring it back to the original position. Okay, slogan. Okay, so we have to get a reference to this slogan. Document or query selector. Let's access slogan. Now slogan dot class list dot add show. Hit enter. Okay, I didn't see the transitioning effect. Okay, why am I not seeing the transitioning effect? If I remember correctly, I have defined the transition property for the HTML element so that it should be effective on all of its children. But turns out it's not effective on its children like this. So what we have to do is that we have to create another block, and now over here we are saying all the children of HTML. So we have to put an asterisk over here. So this means all the children of HTML should have this property applied. Paste. Okay, now you will see this transitioning effect. Previously, this property was defined just for the HTML, therefore it wasn't working on its children. But now over here we are saying all the children of this HTML apply this property. So hopefully this will resolve the problem. So let's refresh and let's get a reference to this slogan once more. Now let's use toggle. So toggle means if this class is attached to this slogan, remove it, and if it's not there, then attach it. So currently it's not there, that's why it's invisible. Now hopefully this will attach it and we will see the smooth transitioning effect as well. Okay, so it's working. Okay, now we have to define similar properties for these buttons as well. Let's go down. Okay, for these hero buttons, again, what we are going to do is that let's copy these two properties, paste them over here, and now set the translation -12% to transition in the other direction. Now again, let's copy this, paste, but instead of the slogan, let's put it hero button, opacity 1, and translate back to its original position. Let's refresh first. Now instead of slogan, let's access buttons. So, and the class name is hero button. Okay. Okay, good. So it's working as well. Now we have to make it dynamic through JavaScript. So let's go to JavaScript. Let's first of all define a variable. And while we are at it, let's get references to both the slogan and the buttons as well. So const slogan is document.query selector slogan. Copy paste and hero button. Okay, so now let's assign an object of type intersection observer to this variable observer. So let's go down. Observer is new intersection observer. So this is a class which is made available to us by default by the browsers. So we are only creating an object of type new intersection observer. But we can give it a reference of any element in our HTML page. And what this intersection observer will do is that it will continuously keep monitoring that object. If that object comes into the visible area of the browser, then whatever functionality we have associated with it, that functionality will be triggered. So this way we can tell this observer object to keep monitoring slogan and hero buttons. As soon as they come in the visible area of the browser, attach show class to them, and the moment they go away from the visible area of the browser, remove that show class from them. So when we are defining this intersection observer, we are going to pass in the function which will define the functionality which will be executed each time the tracked elements comes into the view. So over here we are just defining this functionality. So we are passing a callback function to which we are passing all the elements which we want this intersection observer to track. So entries. Now within the body of this callback function, we are going to iterate over each element of this entries. So for each element which is currently being tracked by this object, pass one entry at a time to the callback function of this for each function. And over here we are saying entry dot target dot class list dot toggle show. So this entry.toggle will represent the particular element which is being tracked by this intersection observer. So we are saying to that class either attach or remove this show method. And as the next parameter, we are telling it that this should happen when entry dot is intersecting. When this entry is actually intersecting, that is in the visible area of the browser. So when this happens, toggle this show. I have explained this intersection observer in depth in one of my videos. You can check out that video for the detailed explanation. I will put the link in the description down as well for your convenience. Now over here we are just defining the functionality. The next thing that we have to do is that we have to let this observer know that what elements it should keep observing. So currently we haven't yet told this observer object what element to keep track of. We have only told it what should happen once they get visible in the viewport area. So to attach those elements to this observer object, we have to, let's go to this window.onload function. The reason for that is that when we give it an element to track of, by that time we want the JavaScript to be aware of the existence of that element. Load function only exists once every element of the HTML has already been loaded into the memory. So by that time, every HTML element exists in the DOM. So this way, we avoid the risk of that element not existing at that moment in time when we are associating the element to the intersection observer. So therefore, over here in this onload function. So observer, we have to call the observe method on this observer object. So we are telling this observer object to keep observing following objects. And those following objects are slogan and hero button. Okay. Slogan, copy paste, hero button. Hero button is not a valid selector. Okay. There were 2 dots. Okay. So as you can see, it's already happening, but I think there is something wrong because we are not able to see the buttons. Hero button. Okay. Good. So this is happening. Now let's go down and go back up. And again, this is happening. Now we need to work on making this section responsive. So let's get started. I think the only thing that we need to change is the font size. Okay, so we are changing the font size from 6 rem to 5 rems and probably a little bit of height as well. Other than that, the rest of the things are already responsive because of using rem units. And okay, for the slogan, decreasing the font size. And for the buttons, maybe we should also decrease width as well, slight height as well. Then, okay, when we are at 1200, home, description, slogan. Font size, let's make it 5 rem. And for the hero button anchor, sorry, not anchor, the button width, the original width is 18 rem, so let's make it 17 rem. And height, I think it's anchor element, yeah. Height, let's make it, the original one is 5 rem, so probably 4.5. And for the hero links, let's decrease the overall width little bit, just little bit. So width is, the original one is 100%. For this one, let's make it 95. Refresh. Change it to 1200. Okay, I think that's better. Okay, I don't think we need to do anything else. Oh wait, as you can see, the image is not occupying the whole height of this viewport area, so we have to fix this image. So instead of fixing this in the 1200 part, we are going to fix it in the global area. This way, hopefully, it's going to be fixed for all the windows. So we are going to go up to our global properties. Let's look for the image. This is hero image. Okay. Now, before we define any properties to fix the image height, we have to understand why we are getting this problem in the first place. So the thing is this, if you notice, this image is getting width defined to be 100%. So it will first look for its immediate parent. And if that parent has width defined, it will take 100% of that width. So the immediate parent of this image is this hero image div. Now, this one has explicit width defined, but it is in turn getting width inherited from its own parent. So the parent of hero image div is this home div. Now, this one has display grid with 2 columns. So basically the width is divided into 3 parts. 2 parts are assigned to the first column and the remaining last part is assigned to the second column, which is this hero image div. So whatever is the width, the third part is assigned to this hero image div, and that whole width is being inherited by this image div. but as far as the height is concerned, nowhere the height is defined. So what the browser is doing is that it's trying to fit the image within the specified width, but as far as the height is concerned, the browser is free to either stretch the image or to shrink the image such that its aspect ratio is maintained with respect to the width. Now what we need to do over here is that we have to take that freedom away from browser, and we have to let it know that no matter what happens, you not only have to adjust the image with respect to the width but also the height occupied by this hero image. So to do that, first of all, we have to assign explicit height to this hero image. So the height that we are going to assign is, so we know the height is all the viewport height minus the navigation bar. So again, we are going to use calc function 100 viewport height minus nav height. So now the parent div has explicit height defined. Now we can make the image itself inherit from it. We can make it 100% as well. Let's make it 100%. Okay, so now we have taken the freedom away and we are forcing browser to not only adjust the image with respect to the width but also with respect to the height. So now let's have a look in the browser and see its effects. So refresh. Okay, so with respect to the 1200, the image is behaving just the way it's supposed to. Now for the 768, even though with respect to the width and height, it's occupying the whole area, but if you notice, the whole image is not visible. So what we are going to do over here for the 768 and 480 browser windows is that we are going to turn this image as the background of this screen, and this text will be in the front. So to do that, we have to change the display property for this from grid to block. So let's go to 768. Okay, so this is 768. Okay, over here for the home, set the display to block. Then for the home hero image position, we are going to set it to absolute. Top is 0, then left 0, and the width is 100% of its parent. So now the home has been changed back to display block, and now we are making this hero image to be starting right where this home element starts. And using these properties, we are saying cover the whole area with respect to the width. As far as the height is concerned, it will still inherit from its global properties. The reason we are redefining the width over here is that the global width was 1 FR, but over here the width is whole browser window, even though the browser window is smaller for tablets and mobile devices, but it's whole browser window. So the width is changing. That's why we are redefining the width over here, but the height remains the same. That is the whole viewport area minus the navigation area. So that's why we don't need to change the height property over here. Now let's change the opacity from 0.4 to, let's make it 0.2 because we want the image to be very dark. Okay. So for 768, this is how it looks. We can still see the image in the brown background and it's covering the whole area. Now we need to, if you notice, this text over here is divided into 3 lines. So we have to decrease the width of this div so that it occupies 3 lines as well. So since this is the slogan, so over here, home, description, and then we have slogan. Let's decrease the width to from 100 to let's make it 50%. Okay, that's better. Now we have to turn these buttons like these. So the buttons are defined in home, description, and then hero btn. Now since in the global section the hero button has already display property flex, so we are only changing the flex direction to column. Then justify content in the global area is spaced evenly. So over here we are going to change them into center. So this is how they look. We have to increase their width and then put some space between these 2 buttons. So put some space between these 2 buttons. We have to copy, paste, and then anchor links, and then let's give it margin bottom 2.5 frame. Okay, the space is fine. Now we have to increase their size. So if you remember, we have given it height and width in the global section. So Let's go back to the hero button. Over here, let's paste the width and height. Let's change from range to make it 65%. That is 65% of the parent. Okay, that's good. Maybe they are a little bit bigger. So make them 60. We can keep the height 5 frames same. It's okay. Okay, I think they are fine. Now we can move on to 480. I think it's sorted as well. So there is nothing more to do. Let's go back to 1200. Good. Now 768. That's also working fine. Image is also fine. 480. That's also fine. Okay, I think there is one more thing. Now if you notice in the navigation bar, at the edges there doesn't seem to be much space. So what we are going to do is that we are going to the 1200 media query, and for this header section we are going to add some more padding. So let's search for 1200. Okay, now after this HTML, let's header, and padding is for the top and bottom we have 0, and for the left and right we have 2 rems, so let's make it 4 rem. We have 2 rems in the global section, I think, so we are increasing to 4 rem. Let's see its effect. Okay, that's perfect. I think that's much better. Now with this we are ending our today's tutorial. If you like my contents, please don't forget to comment, like, subscribe and share. Thank you so much. Happy coding. Okay, so now we are ready to work on describing the About Us section, and this is all that we have to replicate. It's a very simple page, just some text which animates, and in the background we have this image. So let's get to it. Okay, so this is our About Us section. We already have a heading and we have some text, but we have to put it inside a div so that we can easily define separate styles for that div. So contents, the class name that we are giving is content, and put the text back. Okay, now let's go and define the styles for this. Since we have h1 in other sections as well, so we are going to define some styles for general h1, and then for the sections, if there is a need, we will define further styles specific to that section. Okay, so this is main. Let's define h1 before the section. I almost forgot. We have to change the contents of h1 as well. So if this is About Us, change it to 1. Okay, let's change the font size to, let's make it 1.5 frame. Color, primary text. For the font family, copy. Paste it over here. Text align center. Let's place margin bottom 3 rem. Text transform, capitalize. Okay, so these are the basic properties that every h1 element is going to have. However, for the h1 in the About Us section, it animates as well. So those properties we are going to define separately because the other h1s might not have that animation. So over here, About section begins about h1. So over here we are going to define the properties which are going to make it animate, but we will get to that part later. Let's keep it empty for the time being. Now let's define some properties for the About section itself. So for the background color, sorry, not color, some congested properties. So background and fallback color in case the image is not able to be displayed. So primary color. Now for the URL, which will display the image. So images folder, and then we have image 2. Then we want the image to be centrally aligned with respect to both horizontal and vertical axis, and we want to set the object width property to cover as well. So the short form is center/cover. And then we have to insist that if the image is smaller, it should not be repeated in order to cover the whole parent div. So no repeat. Okay, why is the text so small? Let's make it 2.5 frame. Okay, that's better, but I think it's still small. 3 rem. Now we need some letter spacing because the letter seems congested. 0.2 rems. We only want just 2 pixels in between the letters. Yeah, I think that's better. Now we have to bring this in the center. So for that, let's go back to the About section. Over here, set display to flex. Flex direction column. Justify content center. And align item center. Okay, that's better. Now let's work on this text. So the text is about contents. Let's decrease the width to 80%. Let's make it font size 2.2 rem and then we'll see the effect. But first, let's give it color. Color. Secondary text. Line height. It should be bigger than the font size. Our font size is 2.2, so line height, let's make it 3 rem. Okay, that's better. Do you think we should increase the font size of this H1? Let's go back to the H1. Okay, font size, let's make it 4 rem. Okay, that's better. Now bring in the animation effect. So for the animation effects, let's go down. Back to the About section. Okay, so let's cut it and place it at the end. Over here, define transform and translate X property minus 12%, then opacity to 0. And we need both of these properties for the About content section, so paste it over here. However, change the direction from minus 12 to 12%. Now at the end, About contents dot show, comma, About H1 dot show, and paste back both of these properties and translate back to 0 and opacity to 1. Now we have to attach these classes to the intersection observer. So let's go to the script. Let's create 2 references. First one, let's give it name About H1, and for the second one, About content. About H1 and About contents. Okay, now let's go to the over here and change the class references to About content, and this one About H1. Okay, so now our intersection observer is observing these 2 elements as well. Refresh. Home. Okay, good. Now we need to check its responsiveness. So first of all, let's see how does it look in 1200 viewport windows. Okay, I think for 1200 it seems to be fine. I don't think we even need to change the font size. So let's go and check 768. I think this is also fine. Now let's check 480. This is also fine. Okay. So as far as About Us section is concerned, I think we are done. We don't need to define anything related to this section in the media queries. Now there are 2 things that need to be fixed. One of which is, if we click on this hamburger icon, this drop-down menu appears. But then, if we scroll down, the menu is supposed to disappear. But it's not disappearing. We have to click on this hamburger icon again to make it disappear. However, it should also disappear the moment the scroll bar moves even a tiny bit. So we have to fix this part. To do that, we have to go to script.js and we have to define this logic within this onScroll event. So over here, we have to say, when the scroll bar moves, we want this navbar class list dot remove active. This navbar represents the drop-down menu, and when the window is scrolled, then if this active class is present for this element, then remove it. The effect of this will be this drop-down menu will disappear. So let's try it out. Refresh. Even though we don't need to refresh, but it's a force of habit. Okay, so it disappeared. Click on home and it disappeared. Project and disappeared. So this problem is fixed. Now let's fix the problem number 2, which is, let's go to the home section. Okay, so we are at home section. Now let's refresh it. The moment page refreshes, you see the animation for both of these elements. However, let's go to the projects and now let's go back to the home. You will again see both of these animations. Okay, now let's go to the immediate section, that is about us. And now go back to the home section. You will notice the animation only happens for the slogan. Did you notice no animation happened for these buttons? The reason was, when we are on the about us section, a part of home section is still visible behind this navigation bar. So that's why the buttons, they are still present. They have never gone out of the viewport area, and hence the show class has never been removed from them. As a result, when we again go back up, because the show class was never removed, so we didn't see the animation. However, this element was further away, so it did go out of the viewport area, and hence show class was removed from this div. Therefore, when we came back, the show class was again added, and as a result, we saw this animation. However, when we go to any section other than the immediate section, let's say services, now if we go back, we will see the animation, because these two buttons are very far away from these services. So this is a problem only for the immediate section. Now how can we fix this problem? Well, there are multiple options, but I think we are going to go with putting some margin bottom with this div, which contains these two buttons. So this is the style.css. First of all, let's go to the global part, and I think it's called hero buttons. Okay, so this is hero buttons. Let's put in some margin bottom. Let's put in 12 rem and see its effect. If this much margin doesn't work, then we will change it. Let's click on about and let's go back, and there is this animation. Now let's see, does it work for the normal windows? So about, go back, and it's working for the normal windows as well. Now let's check the 768 windows. About, go back, and it's working for this one as well. Now 480. Okay, so it's working. So we are done with problem number 2 as well. Now this is a clip that I'm recording after editing this whole video. The reason is, while I was editing, I noticed my text is not symmetrical at the right side. So if you notice over here, you don't see any symmetry. However, at the left, you see a symmetry. Things get even worse when we go to smaller windows. Like now, if you notice, this looks very messy. So we have to fix this problem, which is very easy to fix. We simply have to go where we have defined this text, which is about contents, and we have to set its text align property to justify. So this is the part about contents, and over here, simply set text align to justify and see the magic. Now if you notice, this looks much more presentable. So it's fixed for all the windows. Okay, now this is the end of our today's video. We are going to start services in our next video. Until then, happy coding, and don't forget to comment, like, subscribe and share. Thank you so much. Okay, so now we are going to start working on the services section. So this is the initial transition, and when we hover over any card, you see the read more contents. Now in order to define these cards, let's first figure out what kind of top level structure it is. If you notice, you can superficially divide this card into 3 parts. The first part is image, and then the second part is this summary, which contains the heading and little bit info about that particular card. Then when we hover over them, we see the third part. So basically we are going to divide this card into 3 parts. Okay, let's go down to the services section. Okay, so we already have H1 over here, but we have to remove this text. So first of all, let's create a container for the cards, the grid cards that we will create. Now let's create the structure for our first card, and then we will copy paste it. Now let's create an image div which will contain the image. So the image is Let's get it from images. Let's start with web development. Okay. Now if you notice, I've changed the images in the demo project. The reason was I've had these images for so long, I don't remember where did I get them from. So I'm not sure if they are freely available to be used. That's why I've replaced those images with the images from the pexel.com, because these are free images and they could be easily distributed as well. So I'll upload this project along with those images for you guys to practice on. Now the second div is, let's give it class name description. Or let's make it smaller and let's turn it into details. Now let's create h3 and the title is web development. Now let's create a paragraph with the class name summary, and over here let's put in lorem with maybe 7 letters. Now this is our second part. We are going to nest third part within this second part. The reasoning for that will be made clear when we move on to the styling this section. So let's give this div a class name read more, and over here let's write lorem. Let's give it 18 characters. Sorry, not characters, words. Maybe let's put in some more. Let's make 5 more. Okay, we'll see about that. Okay, so this is our first card. It's HTML structure. Now, where does it start? It starts over here, the card. Let's go to its ending div over here and start copying it. Copy card 1. Card 2, paste. Card 3, paste. Card 4, why do I keep doing this? Paste. Card 5, paste. Card 6 and paste. Let's have a look in the browser. So this is our demo. Let's go to our own project and this is how it looks. Now we are ready to move on to styling this section. Let's go to style.css, and first of all we are going to define some styles for the h3, because the remaining 2 sections also have this h3. Where have we defined h1 styles? Okay, so no, not this one. Let's go up. Okay, so this is the global h1 styles. Now over here let's define some styles for h3 irrespective of any section. Okay, first of all let's set the text transform property to capitalize. Then font family, let's make it bitter. Okay, then font size, let's make it 2.2 rem, and we'll see if it needs adjustment. Line height as well, let's make it 2.3. Yeah, 2.3 is enough. Then let's change the color to primary text. Let's also give it some padding all around 1 rem. Okay, so this is our web development, but this is different. Let's give it font weight and make it 500 and see its effect. Yeah, I think now it resembles this one. Okay, now we are done with the h3, so let's go down. Let's look for 1200. Okay, over here, services section starts. Let's start with services, and then there we have a class called container. So first of all, let's set its margin to auto. This will help in bringing the contents in the center. Then let's set the display to grid template columns. Now over here we are going to use a function called repeat, because the number of cards in the services can vary at any time. So we are going to make it dynamic by using the repeat function instead of giving it fixed number. So over here for the repeat function, the first parameter is the number of cards that you want to be placed in one single row. And the second parameter is what is going to be the width of that card. So instead of telling the exact number, we are going to set it to auto-fit. By setting the first parameter to auto-fit, we are letting the browser decide the number of cards each row should contain. So if the screens are smaller, the browser might fit in just one card per row. If the screen is bigger, the browser might decide to put in 15 cards per row. The browser has the control. However, we are going to give it one condition based on which the browser can decide how many cards should fit in. So that condition is the second parameter. So over here, we have to tell it what should be the minimum size of each card. Now, in order to fit in more cards per row, the browser is definitely going to shrink the size of the cards. So over here, we have to constrain the browser that a card cannot go smaller than this width. So we can give it, let's say, 300 pixels. But if this is how we are defining, we are only saying fit as many 300 wide cards as possible. But we are not telling it to dynamically adjust the size if there is more space width-wise in the browser. So let's say if there are 2 cards and the browser size is 900 pixels, then the browser will place 2 cards, but the rest of the 300 pixels will be free. But now we also have to tell it if there is more space and less number of cards, then you can expand the size of the card as well, such that there is no free space in one corner and all the cards shoved in the other corner. So to do that, we are going to use another function over here, which is called min-max. And this min-max takes 2 parameters. The first one will be the minimum size of the card in terms of width, and the second one will be the maximum size of the card in terms of width. So as far as minimum width is concerned, we are going to put in 300 pixels back. And as far as the maximum width is concerned, we are going to give browser the freedom to decide on its own. So instead of giving it any concrete value, we are giving it 1 FR, means equally divide the remaining space between all the cards. So this way, all the cards will equally expand. Okay. So this is all it means. Now remember this min and max will apply to the number of cards that can fit in single row. For example, if you notice over here in our demo project, there's still some space left, but these cards haven't expanded. The reason is this decision was taken based on the first row. So the number of cards that can fit in the first row, the remaining cards will also be given the same width. It's not like these cards can have different width and these one will have different width to fill up this gap. However, if this is what you want, then you can go with the flex. I wanted all the cards to have same size no matter what, so I went with the grid style. Okay, let's see how they look. Okay, so this is how they look. That's because the image sizes are much bigger. Okay, we'll fix it. Now if you notice, there is also some gap between all of these elements, horizontally as well as vertically. So we have to make sure there is this much amount of gap as well. Because if you notice over here, currently there is no gap between these elements. So to do that, we are going to set gap to 3 rem. Well, we still can't see the gap because the image is overflowing. So I'm going to comment this out for the time being, and when we have adjusted the dimensions of the image, then we will uncomment it. Okay, so these were the properties for the container itself. Now let's define some properties for the card. So services, container, and card. If you notice, the parent of this card is container, and by setting its grid template column property, we have basically divided the width of the browser into different chunks. The minimum width of each chunk is 300 pixels. However, the maximum can be any value, including the whole width of the browser. But the point is, once we define this property, we know what is going to be the width of each element of the grid, that is, width of this card. Now we have to give it maximum height as well. Otherwise, based on the contents of each card, one card might be taller than other card, and therefore there won't be any symmetry between the cards. I want symmetry between all the cards, so I am going to give it fixed height as well. So the height is 52 viewport height. So the width is defined and height is also defined now. In fact, let's make it maximum height. So by setting the maximum height, there is still a possibility that the size of the card can be smaller, but we are ensuring that it can't go beyond 52 viewport height. Now, in order to avoid the possibility that some cards are smaller, we will ensure that each element has same text or same number of rows so that each column occupies same amount of space. Now, next we have to divide this height, that is 52 viewport height, into 2 different parts. The first one will contain the image and the second one will contain the rest of the contents. So display is grid, and because we are going to divide this card into fixed elements, so instead of using repeat with autofit or anything, we are going to say grid template rows. The first one we have to give it value 65%, and for the second one we are going to reserve 35%. So basically we want, what is this? So basically we want the most of the space in terms of height be occupied by the image and the rest be reserved for the contents. Let's have a look, and it will be messy. Okay, it's still almost no effect. Now because we haven't yet fixed the dimensions of the image, so it's displaying with its original dimensions and hence it's overlapping and overflowing. So why not, let's first handle this image so that we can see the effect of rest of the properties. Okay, so our image is, let's copy this, copy, paste. We still have some more properties for this card to define, but I am going to define some properties for the first image div. And to this div, we are going to give some round edges. So border radius, let's give it 6 pixels. Just slight round edges. Not very noticeable, but slight edges. Okay. Copy, paste, and the image itself. This is actually image div, not just image. Okay, for the image, now because the parent of this image is this image div, and if you notice this, the parent of this image div is this card, and for this card we have defined the fixed height, which is 65% and 35%. Now because the image div is the first child of this card, so it will occupy this 65% height. So this means this image has already got height defined, and because the parent of this card is this container which has got width defined over here, so this means this image has also got some height defined already. So we don't need to explicitly define the height because this image inherits explicit height and width from its parent and grandparent. However, for this image we have to make sure that its width is 100% of its parent. For that we have to explicitly define its width and height also 100%. Okay. So now by defining this width and height to be 100%, we are ensuring that this image will fit 100% width of its parent and 100% height of its parent as well. So the height of this parent is 65% out of 52 viewport height and minimum 300 pixels out of 100% of the browser window. Then we have to make sure that this image fits within these defined width and height. For that we are going to set object fit property to cover. That means cover that whole space. And if the image is bigger, then we want the image position to be, by the image position I mean start placing it from the center. So object position is center. Okay, let's have a look first. Okay, so that's the reason we were not seeing any changes. If you notice over here, so no changes. I thought it has something to do with the image size. That is also true, but because if you notice, we have made a spelling mistake. So these properties has never taken effect for the services container children. So let's put in V over here and V over here. Okay. Good, great. That's much better now. Okay, so now we have to place in this gap that we were talking about. This gap over here. So for that, let's uncomment it. Gap 3 rem. Okay, that's much better now. Okay, next what we are going to do is that we are going to bring in some space between the left and right edges of the browser and the contents. Now because this is a section, but our project and contract are also sections, so we are going to define this property for the section itself so that it has effect on the upcoming sections as well. Okay, so let's search for the section property itself. Okay, so this is the section, and over here let's give it some padding. So what padding shall we give? Let's give it 2 rem all around. But first, let's have a look on the main section as well. If we have defined any padding for this, no. Okay. And for the, what was the other one? The about us section. Okay, so we haven't defined any padding for this section as well. And now we have a problem. Okay, because we gave padding, so there is some space over here. That means we don't want this. So let's go back. Let's search for it. Okay, and what we are going to do is that we are going to say section excluding, so not. So this property will apply to all the sections except for what is defined over here. So first of all, let's include the section with the class name main, then another not with the section with the class name about. I hope these are the names that I have given. Now let's put in the padding back, which was 2 rems. So let's make it 0 rem top and bottom, and for the left and right, let's give it 2 rem. So now this padding will be applied to all the sections except for those sections which has a class name main or about. Okay, let's refresh one more time. Let's go back to the main. So no padding. Let's check services and nothing. Wait a second. Why did I put it within these brackets? This is not supposed to be in the brackets. Yeah, what did I do now? So, okay, let's remove this and this. Okay. Let's have a look. Okay, so there is this padding now. Now let's go to the home and what's wrong? Now there is no space over here, but for the home there is. Do you think we have given the wrong class name? Okay, so first section is home and I have given it class name main. Okay. Let's change this to home. That's good now. Okay, home has no padding. About has no padding. The services has padding though. Okay, that's good. That's what we wanted. However, I don't think there is any smooth edges over here, so there is something wrong there as well. Let's go back. So border radius 6 pixels. Let's make it 12 pixels. Still no effect. Do you think this image is somehow overflowing? Because technically speaking, this is still the image div. However, we are giving it round edges by setting the border radius. So maybe the image is not taking into account those round edges and it's trying to fit into the whole image div. So let's give it overflow hidden. Yeah, that's better. Okay, so now it has got round edges. However, 12 pixels is a lot. Let's bring it back to, instead of 6 or 12, let's make it 8 pixels. Yeah, I think that's better. Okay, now the first child of this card is image. We have already defined styles for it. Now the second child is this whole section, this whole part, which has a class name details. And in details div, the first child is h3. The second one is this paragraph with the class name summary. And the third one is a div with the class name read more. So we have to define styles for these 3. So the first thing is that we have to bring all these contents in the center. So the easiest way to bring them is we are going to set display property flex for them. Then justify content center and align item center will do the trick. So let me copy this part. Copy, paste, and the second child is details. Set display to flex. Now by default all the elements go into single row, so we have to set the flex direction to column. Then justify content center, align items center as well. Okay, good. Now let's work on this summary. So let's copy this, paste it over here, and then summary. For the padding, top and bottom, let's make it 0.5 frame. For the left and right, let's ignore. Font size, let's make it 1.5 frame. Okay, so this is how it looks. This is the summary. Now we can move on to this details section. Sorry, not details, read me section. So, which is a child of details section. So copy, paste, and read more. Now for the time being, I'm going to set its display to none. I want to make it invisible for the time being. Okay, so this is how our card looks in the beginning. But it's too white. I haven't given any background color to this section. So first of all, let's go to the services and give it some background color. So over here where our services section begin, Let's give it background color. This is the color, primary color. Yeah, that's better. But what about the text? We have to give it color. So to this card, let's define a color. Secondary text. Okay, now the text is visible. Just to make sure the read more has also taken effect, let's go down and comment it. Okay, good. Now we have to make sure that this read more is invisible, but when we hover over any card, this text overlaps this whole card. So to do that, we have to make sure the referencing element with which this read more will adjust itself is the card element itself over here. Where this one, card. So to make the read more element reference this card while positioning itself, we have to first of all set the position relative for the card itself. Now defining this property for the card will not have any effect on the card itself. However, because of this property, now read more element can adjust itself with respect to the card itself. So what we are going to do is that first of all we are going to set position to absolute. Then top is going to be 0. That means the top of this read more and the top of card is going to be the same. Then left is 0 as well. That is whatever is the left of the card. Let's bring the right 0 as well. That is give the whole 100% width of the card. And then bottom 0 as well. That is the whole height of the card as well. So now just to see the effect, let's give it background color. Let's give it some background color. Let's give it this one, some light color. Let's give it aqua. Okay, fine. Okay, so this is how it looks. Now see the color that these cards have. So if you notice, this has a gradient color. It starts as darkish gray color, and then as it moves towards the right, this turns into the primary color. So we have to give the same color. So we need two colors that transition from one color to other. So instead of background color, we have to use background property. Then linear gradient, and we want it to transition from left to right. So to right is the first parameter, then the second two parameters of the two colors. So first one is going to be primary color, and the secondary color is this outline. Okay, that's good. Now we have to decrease its opacity so that we can see what's behind it as well. So we are going to set its opacity to 0.9, just a little bit. Okay, that's better. Now we have to work on this text. So the first thing is that we have to bring it in the center. So we are going to set display to flex, justify content center, align item center. So font size, let's make it 1.5 frame. Okay, that's better. We need some padding. Heading or all around, let's make it 1 frame. Okay, that's better. However, I think we need some more text. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to go back to index.html, add some more text over here, and then we will continue from there. Okay, now to each card, we already have this text. Now then I have added a BR and copy pasted the same text, and one more BR and again copy pasted the same text. This way, this is how the text in each card looks. Now we have to make this part invisible, and only when we hover over the card, this text should appear. So to do that, what we are going to do is, to this one, let's use transform and translate Y 100%. So we want it to go 100% down. So this way it will be invisible. Now translating 100% vertically has moved this element from here to here, but it's still visible. So what we are going to do is that we are going to set the display to none, and then we are going to define hover property for the card, whole card. So copy, and over here let's paste it and define the hover property. So when the card is hovered, let's bring this part back. Copy, paste it back. So when the card is hovered, we want the display property set back to flex and translate y back to its original position. Okay, when we hover over any card, its associated read more div gets visible, but we don't see any transitioning effect like this one. So what we are going to do is that we are not going to work with the display property. So let's make it display flex. Okay, so now we can see the transitioning effect. But the problem is that when we are not hovering over any element, we can still see the read more section. For these two, it's over here. For these two, it's behind these cards, and for these two cards, it's over here. So we have to make sure it's hidden. So instead of working with display property, because if we work with display property, we don't see the smooth transitioning effect. So what we are going to do is that we are going back to the card itself. And over here, we are going to set overflow is hidden. Remember, we made this card to start over here and then we translated 100% down. So basically this read mode section is now overflowing out of this card area. So by setting the overflow hidden, the read mode is invisible in the beginning, but when we hover over it, it gets smoothly transitions up to the top. Okay. So this transitioning is done. However, now we have to work on, let's refresh, this transitioning effect. So in the beginning, some cards fall down and sometimes are brought up. So to define these properties, we have to work with the card itself. But we have to work on even and odd cards. So what we are going to do is that, first of all, let's define the transform property for all the cards and translate them. Let's make it 60 pixels. It's minus, let's make it positive. Then copy, paste, card dot show, copy, paste, and bring it back to its original position, which is 0. Now we have to get a reference to this card in our JavaScript. So copy and let's go over here, services. Since we have multiple cards, so query selector all and paste it. Now let's go down and over here, services dot for each. Let's make it card. Then observer dot observe and give it the card. Okay. Let's have a look. Okay, so we can see the transitioning effect, but all are transitioning from bottom up. So now we have go back to styles and over here, let's copy this part, paste it over here, and now we are going to access its nth child, but we are interested in even child. And for that, we are going to set, copy this, paste, and minus 60. So this part is telling that all the children should transition from bottom to up. But then we are explicitly targeting even cards and we are making it transition from top to bottom. Refresh and you can see this transitioning effect. Okay. Now we have to change the images. Okay, now let's check. Okay, good. Okay, so we are done with this part. Now let's see how does it look responsively. Okay, so this is 480. Let's go to services. I think it looks fine. Maybe we need some heading between the services and this navigation bar, but let's go to 768. Now with respect to 768, everything seems fine as well. Again, some heading at the top. 1200. Okay, everything. I don't think there is any need to change anything except for putting some padding over here. Okay, so this is something to do with the section. So instead of defining any properties over here, we are going to look for generic properties for the section, and over here let's give it, well, not over here, rather over here. Padding, let's give it padding top, make it 2 rem. Yeah, I think that's better. Okay, since we don't need to make any other changes to make it more responsive, because we have already said most of our unit is rems, so rem automatically adjusts when the font size is decreased. Okay, now check services. Okay, there is enough padding. Now let's check 1200. Okay, let's refresh and see the effect. Okay, we can still see the transitions. Good. Now with respect to 768. Refresh. Okay, there's still the transitioning effect. Now 480. 480. Okay, good. So we can still see the transitioning effect as well. So that means we don't need to make any changes as far as the responsiveness is concerned for our services section. Okay, so with this we are ending our today's video as well. In the next video we will work on the project. So let's go to the demo and have a look at the project. Okay, so this is the project that we will be working on in our next video. Until then, don't forget to comment, like, subscribe and share. Happy coding! Okay, so now we are going to start working on our project section. Now we need to, this is services section, so this is our project section. First thing that we have to do is that we have to delete this text. Let's change the text. While chooses. Now let's create a container div. And within this container, we are going to create cards, each of which is going to represent a unique project. So the first card is, it contains a H3. Let's give it name Cloud Migration. Next, we are going to use a Font Awesome icon. So first of all, let's go and get that icon. Okay, so this is Font Awesome website. I have already logged in. And okay, this is the globe thing that we have to search for. I'm going to change the version. Globe. Okay, so this is the version. Sorry, this is the icon. And let's click it to copy. Let's create a div with the class name icon, then paste it the Font Awesome element. Let's create a div with the class name summary, and we are going to use lorem, let's say save text. And that's it. That's the card. Copy. This is card 1. Card 2. Paste it. Now this time we are going to keep inserting the proper Font Awesome icons as well, because otherwise what happens is that I forget about them, like we did with the, let me show you, with the services section. So if you remember now, if you notice, all of these have title web development. So I'm not going to make the same mistake. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to keep changing the font items when I'm inserting the cards. So let's take the second one. This looks like a clipboard. So let's search for a clipboard. Okay, let's use this one. Copy and paste it over it. Now this is card, copy, card 3, paste it over here. This looks like a mobile app. Okay, I have used this one. Okay, click to copy, paste it, and let's remove this. Card 4, copy, paste. This looks like a basket. Copy, and let's copy it. Now paste it over here. The title, we have to change the title as well. E-commerce platform, and for this one the title was mobile app development. For the second one, the title was website redesign project. Okay, now let's copy it, paste it, and card 5. I think this looks like a network. Yeah, I'm interested. Copy, paste it over here. Consulting. Copy, paste. This is going to be card number 6. Digital transformation consulting. Okay, this looks like a social media type. Copy, so click and copy, paste it over here. Copy, paste, card 7. Human resource management system. Search for people. This one. Copy, paste it over here. Copy this card and paste it over here. Network monitoring and management. Okay, we have same icon. Let's search for wireless. Let's select this one. Oh, most of them are pros. Search for router. Let's select this one, route. Copy and paste it over here. Let's have a peek in the browser. Projects. Okay, so we have globe, clipboard, mobile, cart, network, users, and routes. Okay. Now all we need to do is that we have to style them. So let's open styles.css and let's go down over here, projects section begins. What's the class name that we have given to that section? Projects. Let's give it background color. Secondary color. We need a different background color. Oh, is missing. Okay, good. Then next, before we define anything for the container, let's go up and check the container for the services section. Okay, so this services section also has display grid and grid template column, repeat autofit, same thing. So what we are going to do is that we are going to put a comma over here and projects container. So now basically we don't have to define separately any styles for the container itself because this container is also getting these same properties. Okay, good. Now for the cart, we need some of these properties but not all. So what I'm going to do is that instead I'm going to separately define these properties. Projects, container, and card. Display is flex. Justify content center. Align item center as well. Flex direction column. Let's define the border. Solid 1 pixel and for the color, primary text color. Now for the border, let's give it round edges. So border radius, let's give it 10 rem. Yeah, I think that's better. We need to put some space between website and redesign. Okay. Let's define some styles for this icon. Copy, paste, and it's the icon. So this icon is a div, and inside the div we have I element. So for this div, okay, let's define styles for the I element first, and then if we feel the need to define any styles for the icon, we will define the styles for the icons as well. But let's work on the I element first. Okay, let's give it font size. Let's give it 10 rem and see how big or small they look. Okay, I think these are quite big. Maybe we should give them 12 rem. I don't want to go with as big as these icons, but definitely slightly bigger than these ones. Yeah, I think they're better. Now let's define some styles for the summary. So copy this part, paste it over here, and then summary. First of all, let's increase the font size to, let's give it 2 rem and see its effect, but text align center as well. Now for the font color, we are going to use this secondary text color. Okay, that's better. Now we need to give some padding to this text. So padding, we are only interested in giving padding top and bottom, so let's make it 2 rem and for the left and right 0 because they are already in the center. Okay, this looks good. However, I want to give it slightly bigger size. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to give some padding to this card itself. So we have to go to this card and let's give it padding. Top and bottom, let's make it 2 rem and left and right 1 rem as well. Okay, they look like a square shape. So shall we increase the height of this card? Because we haven't defined explicit height for this card. Okay, so we need to increase the text over here. That will automatically increase the size. Okay, so copy line break and paste. We'll see its effect first. Okay, so copy this part and paste it to the rest of the cards. Card 2 paste, card 3 paste, card 4 paste, this is card 5, 6, 7 and 8. Okay, so now we need to give some padding to this icon as well, such that there's some space between this title H3 and the image as well. But I think we need to change the color of these icons as well. Yeah, we have to make them white. Okay, so this is the icon. Okay, so let's give it padding top. Let's make it 2 rem as well, and the color is going to be white. Yeah, I think that's better now. Okay, we have to make this text centrally aligned as well because this doesn't look nice. So this is H3. Copy, paste it over here and H3. Text align center. Yeah, I think this is better. We need some padding over here as well at the bottom of this section. So let's go to the section. Okay, over here where we are saying to all the sections except for the home and about. So let's make it heading instead of heading top. So this way now there is padding at the top and bottom. So we have 2 paddings. Okay, let's comment this out. So now padding all around top and bottom, because this one was giving padding to left and right and this was padding top. That is, we were explicitly changing the padding top from 0 to 2 only for the padding top. We were not giving any padding to the bottom. Now we are giving padding to the bottom as well, so we are going to keep this one padding top all around. So this will give it top, bottom, left, right, everything 2 rems. Let's see its effect. Okay, that's better. Let's click on home. This is fine. Good. Okay. They don't look slim, just like these ones. The main reason is this, the font size of this icon is much bigger than what I have given to these ones. So maybe we should increase the padding for the left and right. This way, there won't be much space in the left and right, and this text will go to more than 4 lines, and this way it will stretch the size of the card. So let's go down. Let's make it 2.5 and 2 rem. Some change now. Now, when we hover over the whole card gets scaled up. So let's define this animation. So since the whole card scales up, that means we have to define the animation or this transformation for the card. Let's copy this whole part. Copy, paste it over here, and then attach the hover with the card. We are going to transform and we are going to scale it to 1.05. Okay, good. And that was it for the projects. We are done with the projects. But wait, we need to check how do they look responsively. So let's start with 1200. So these are the projects. I think when we are in the 1200 section, 1200 width of the browser, we want to increase this padding for all the sections. So again, let's go up to the section, and for this one, copy and bring it to the 1200. Okay, so this is 1200. Paste it over here. Now increase the padding from 2 to, let's see how does it look with 4 rem. Okay, that's better. Yeah, that's better. We need some space between these cards and this text as well. Since we want this space, irrespective of its size, the browser width. So let's go to the container, copy, paste, and give it padding top. Let's make it 3 rem. Let's give it 1.5. One rem. Yeah, that's better. Okay, so this is 1200. We don't need to make any more changes. The reason that we don't need to make any more changes is that, first of all, we have mostly used rem as a unit, and the second is that we have used display grid and flex, and then we have set the column sizes with the auto fit and min max functions. So these elements are already being adjusted according to the size of the browser. Okay, now let's check 768. Again, I think everything is fine. $480. Okay. Now for the 480, I think we should squeeze these cards. They don't look as appealing. What we are going to do is that let's go to the 480, and we want to do that for all the cards. That is the cards for the services as well as the cards in the project section. So, sorry, not the card. We have to do this for the container. Okay, so I'm using just the container class because both of these sections has container class, but their section names are different. Okay, so this is project and it has a class container. Now for the services, it also has a class container. So that's why I'm just targeting this container, because this way it's going to be applied to all the elements which have this container class, irrespective of whether they are in the services section or in the project section. Okay, so what I'm going to do is that I'm going to give it padding. Let's make it 5 rem and check its effect. Yes, I think that's better. Okay, now for the services. Yeah, I think that's better. Okay, so now we are done with the 768, 1200. Okay, now finally we are ready to complete our contact us section, this one. Now if you notice, this one seems a lot similar to our home page, like this one. So basically our hero section is divided into two parts. The first one contains text and the second one contains the image. We have to define similar styles for the contact us section as well. Now if you notice, this one has a text in the left side and an image, the same image in the right side. So first of all, let's define the HTML and then we will see how much of the styles we can reutilize from the hero section. Okay, so let's go down to our last section, at the end of the last section. Okay, so this is our last section. Now let's define a section with the class name contact. Let's create a div with the class name container. And within this div, we are going to create two children. The first one, let's give it a class name details. And the second one, let's give it the class name image. Let's go to the details div and let's define its children. So this one is a h3, then some text, then we have a heading phone with the phone number, then email with the email address. So first of all, let's define h3. The text is let's work together. So let's work together. Then we have this text, book a free consultation. So let's create a paragraph, book a free consultation. Then a div for the phone number and another one for the email. So a div with the class name phone. Let's create a paragraph, phone, and then phone number, another paragraph. So any phone number plus 44-123456. Okay. Now let's create another div for the email. A paragraph which says email, then another paragraph which says email@email.com. Okay, that's all the contents of the details div. Now let's move on to the image div. So let's create an image. Now the image is in the images folder. I think it's image 1. Let's remove this alternate. Let's have a peek in the browser. Let's go to the contact. Okay, so no image. Where is it? There it is. Oh, we need to remove this text. So basically we were supposed to define everything in here because we already have a section with the class name contact. So let's remove this whole section. Now we have a class. Now we have a section with the class name contact. Let's have a look. Okay, so this is our contact us section. Let's work together, book a free consultation, phone number and email, and then we have this image. Now let's go to our home section and see its styles. So what was the class name that we gave to that section, our hero section? Home. We have given it the class name home. So we have background color, display grid, and the grid template column, 2FR and 1FR. Now basically we have to give these three properties which are for the home to our contact section as well. So what we can do is that we can put a comma and say contact because it's a class name, and then the section itself doesn't have two children. We have another div within the contact section called container. Now these properties will be applied to the contact us section as well, like this. But by the way, this white space is coming because for the sections other than the home and about, we have given the padding all around 2 rem. So that's why we are seeing this white space over here. Okay, so basically the point over here is if we like, we can put a comma and repeat the properties rather than redefining the properties from scratch for the contact us section as well. But the thing is this, some of the properties we can reutilize which are defined over here, but there will be other properties which are not defined for the home section. That means we will have to separately define those properties with similar names, and by names I mean we will have another block which will look something like this, contact and container. Now technically this is how we are supposed to do, because we are not supposed to reinvent the wheel. If we have already defined some properties, then we should not redefine them. This will be called redundancy. So redundancy sometimes it's good, but most of the times it's not good. But the problem is that if this is how we define properties, then we will have two different places where we have properties associated with the contact us section. Now if there is some error, then we will not be able to easily figure out where is that section, over here or in the separate block. So instead of doing it like this, what I'm going to do is that I am going to repeat the properties for the contact us section. So I am copying this part and let's go down. Let's look for 1200. Okay, so over here, contact us section begins. Now over here, let's define some properties for the contact. Let's keep it empty for the time being. Contact and container. Paste it over here. Okay, so this is how they look. Now even though this is the repetition, we could have gone with the previous method, but if for some reason there is some problem, then we will not be able to figure out exactly in which part this problem is, because our properties belonging to this contact us sections will be scattered. We don't want that scattered aspect, so we are going to repeat these properties. Now we have to remove that white padding, so we can define over here, or we can go up. Let's look for not. Okay, over here, let's attach another not for the contact. Okay, good. Now that padding is gone. Now we have to bring this image in its appropriate size. So we are again going back to the home section. Okay, so this is image div in the home section, and this is the image itself. So basically we are going to copy this part and let's bring it down. Paste it over here. Now change the names. Contact, container, and then we have an image div. And over here, contact, container, image div, where we have this image element. Okay, that's better. Now we are ready to work with this section. Oh, sorry, this part. So this is basically details part. So technically this is the first child of the container, so I'm going to place it before the image. So contact, then container, then details. Let's give it some background color, temporary color, so that we can see how much space is being currently occupied. Okay, so we have to bring it in the center. So for the details, let's set display to flex, justify content center, align item center as well. Okay, we have to give it flex direction. So flex direction is column. Okay, but why isn't it center? Justify, okay, align items. Okay, but we don't need them exactly in the center. We want to push them a little bit towards the left. So align item, let's make it flex start. Okay, we can now put some padding over here. So padding left, let's give it 13 rem. That's better, but I think there's too much space over here. So what I'm going to do is that I'm also making it justify content flex start as well. Okay, now we can put some padding over here as well. So let's change this to padding. Then this is padding top 13 rem, padding right 0, padding bottom also make it 0, and then padding left 13 rem as well. Top, right, bottom, left. Yeah, I think that's better now. Now let's remove this background color. So let's comment it. Okay, so this is how it looks. Now let's look at this H3. Okay, so this is H3. This text seems a bit down and this is a bit higher. So maybe we should increase the padding. So from 13 to let's make it 14. Okay. Okay, so this looks, so this text looks bigger, slightly bigger. So let's look for H3. This is generic H3 and the line height is, font size is 2.2. So we are going to increase the font size in the contact us section. Okay, so this is contact us section, contact and H3. Okay, so H3 font size from 2.2 to let's make it 2.5 frame. Okay, I think now this one looks bigger, but I'm going to keep it. Okay, now we have to work on the rest of these properties. Now let's go to the demo project. So this one is the text for after the H3. Then this one looks like a title, even though it's a paragraph. This is also a paragraph, but it has been given the styling of a title. Then this is text. So this the text color has this secondary text color. However, this paragraph and this paragraph has the primary color. So basically we have to target this paragraph, then the second paragraph from this div, and again the second paragraph from this div. So these two are within the div with the class name email, and these two paragraphs are within the div with the class name phone. This div is directly in the details section. So we have to target the immediate paragraph of details section. So this way it will only target this paragraph because this is the immediate paragraph of details section. Then the second paragraph of phone div and second paragraph of email div. So to target that, so contact container, then we have details div and the immediate child of the immediate paragraph of details div. So to say the immediate paragraph, that is only the direct descendants, not the grandparents, not the grandchildren, because technically speaking these are grandchildren paragraphs of the whole details div. So we are only targeting the immediate children, which is only one paragraph. So this one, then the second paragraph of phone div and second paragraph of email div. So contact container details, then we have phone. Within phone we are going to target paragraph, but second paragraph, so nth of type 2. Then copy paste, put comma over here, then contact container details, then instead of phone we have to say email. Okay, for these three paragraphs, let's change the color first, so at least they are visible. Secondary text color. Okay, so now book a free consultation, phone number and the email. Now we have to target this phone and email. So these are first paragraph of phone and first paragraph of email div. So let's copy this part, copy, paste. Now change the type from 2 to 1 because these are the first paragraphs. Let's change the color to primary text color. Text transform uppercase. Okay, so this is how they look. Now we have to increase the font size and put some paddings. Okay, so let's copy this part and paste it over here. Now we are saying all the paragraphs within the details div. It doesn't matter whether they are the immediate children, grandchildren, or great-grandchildren. It doesn't matter. As long as they have a common ancestor called details, apply the properties defined over here to all of the P's. So let's first of all increase the font size to, let's give it 2 rem and see the effect. Okay, I think that's perfect. Now let's give some letter spacing to 0.2 rem. Yeah, that's better. Now we have to increase the paddings. So padding top and bottom, let's give it 1 rem. Left and right make it 0. Okay, good. That's good. I think we are done with the styles. Now we have to look at the responsiveness. So first of all, let's go to the demo project. Okay, so this is how it looks. So that means basically no change for the 1200 width. For the 768, so this is how it looks, and so basically the size of the image has been increased and the size of this section has been decreased. For 480, so this is the styles for the 480 where the image is gone in the background. So basically I'm going to give this same image to 768 as well, because this is what we have done for the home section as well. So this is our home section, 768, and let's go to the home section. So if you notice, the image is in the background, so we have to do the same for the contact us section as well. So the first thing that we have to go to the 768 pixel. Okay, and we are going to copy the properties that are defined for the home over here. Okay, so copy, and over here paste them over here. Now from the home, change it to contact.container. So the display has been changed from grid to block. Now over here, contact container, we have image div. Okay, let's have a look. Okay, this is our project. Let's go to contact. Okay, so this is how it looks. So basically the height is not, it's not occupying the whole height, and the image is missing as well. So let's fix this height related issue first. So basically what is happening is that we haven't explicitly given any height to the contact us section. So when you don't define any height, the default value for the height for any element is auto. So auto means stretch out the element as much as needed to fit its content. Now in the absence of image, these are the contents, some padding over here which we have assigned 13 rem, and this text. So this much space is needed to place in these contents. Now we have to make sure the content section occupies 100% height no matter what, even if the contents are not enough. Actually, there is one more problem. If you notice, we can see the white space all around. This is another padding which is somehow coming from somewhere. So first of all, we have to figure out where is this padding coming from, because in the regular section, for the regular windows, we have removed the padding for the contact us section as well. So I again looked for not, then I came across this section where we are assigning padding 4 rem. That is basically increasing the padding from 2 rem in the regular section to 4 rem for everything except for home and about. So that's why contact us is getting 4 rem padding as well. So over here we also have to attach not and contact. So now this padding is gone. Okay, so the padding has been resolved. Now only the original 2 problems remain, which is why isn't occupying 100% height and where is the image gone. Now to resolve this height related issue, what we are going to do is that because this part is the details div, so we are going to give it the minimum height the way we have given it to rest of the elements, which is 100% viewport height minus the nav height. So we are in the 1200, and so rather than giving it in the 1200, let's go to the regular section. Okay, so this is the details part. Now let's give it let's give it height. Calculate function 100% viewport height minus nav height. Okay, so this problem is resolved. Now the only problem that remains is where is the image gone. Now let's go back to the 768. Okay, so over here I think the problem is where is the contact section. Okay, so for this image div we are setting position absolute, but with respect to what? So probably the parent which it's choosing is not the immediate container, which is immediate section, which is the contact section. This one. So this one should be the immediate parent for this image div. With respect, it should position itself. So what we are going to do is that again we are going to the regular section. Okay, over here for the contact, let's set the position relative. So this will have no effect on the contact itself, but because of this property, now the image div will use this contact section as a parent with respect to which it will position itself. And now you can see the image as well. Okay, so this is 480. Check 768. Okay, this is fine, but I think this text should be in the center for the 768. Let's have a look at the 1200 while we are at it. 1200 is fine. Okay, 768, the content should be in the center. Okay, 768. Okay, this is it. Okay, contact container. Let's define contact container details. I think we already have just display flex, but the justify content and align item are not center. I think they are flex start. So justify content center and align item center. I hope this has resolved the problem. Okay, now we have to remove the padding. So let's remove the padding all around, make it 0. Okay, I think that's better now. Now let's go check 480. Okay, 1200 and the regular one. Okay, good. So with this, the IT company project ends over here. We have completed everything. I hope you liked this project. If you did, please don't forget to comment, like, subscribe and share as well. Also, if you are interested in the code, I will upload the code on the Buy Me a Coffee website as well.